So, this time it was different. During the stock market crash of 2020, a lot of people, including you, decided to invest as much money as possible in the stock markets and mutual funds, and some people went crazy. They took loans just to invest in that market. As a result, a lot of people, including you, are sitting on huge piles of profits. And if you are a first-time investor, then you haven't seen any kind of significant portfolio loss in your entire life. And you have to acknowledge the fact that your 1 lakh rupees need a 100% return to go to 2 lakh rupees, but at 2 lakh rupees you only need a 50% drop to go back where you started from. So today I'll tell you about 5 biggest mutual fund blunders that beginner investors are making. You can also tell me in the comments whether you were making these blunders or not. And the objective is pretty simple. The stock market is at crazy high levels. I don't know when's the next crash going to be, but all I can do is educate you on the right time so that you get enough time to protect your profits. This is Money Minded Mandeep. Thank you for supporting this channel. The first common blunder people make is they think that if a mutual fund's NAV is low, then they will get more units by investing in that fund, and more units will translate to more profit. You could not be more wrong about this. Let's look at this with an example. Let's say you have 10,000 rupees to invest and you looked at mutual fund 1, you saw the NAV 100 rupees. You looked at mutual fund 2, you saw the NAV at 10 rupees. Now you quickly did the math. You understood that if you invest in mutual fund 1, you'll get only 100 units, whereas if you invest in mutual fund 2, you'll get 1000 units. I say that you invest 10,000 rupees in each of these funds hypothetically. And let's say after 1 year, they both give a portfolio return of 30%. That automatically translates to new NAVs of 130 rupees and 13 rupees. Now, if at this point you want to withdraw your money, it will be the number of units you hold multiplied by the new NAV. That means in mutual fund 1, you will get 100 multiplied by 130, that is 13,000 rupees. And in mutual fund 2, you will get 1000 multiplied by 13, that is 13,000 rupees. The conclusion is NAV does not matter. And you really need to know what NAV is and how is it calculated. So think about, what does a mutual fund even mean? A mutual fund will take investors' money and invest in certain instruments according to the objective, right? So every mutual fund at all times are managing some kind of money. That money is what we call assets under management. Let's take an example of mutual fund A. It has an AUM, that is assets under management, of 1100 crores. It includes the fund value as well as the cash that they are holding. That's right. Every mutual fund is required to hold a certain amount of cash so that they can fulfill the redemption request without disturbing their invested value, and they can also take advantage of some opportunities that may or may not come their way. Now, the formula for NAV is assets minus liabilities divided by the total number of units. And every mutual fund is required to calculate and publish the NAV at the end of every trading day. So in this example, let's say today the AUM stands at 1100 crores. That means our assets are 1100 crores. Let's say today itself the scheme received liabilities of 100 crores. Liability means redemption requests. And the total number of units is 1 crores. The formula then becomes 1100 crores minus 100 crores divided by 1 crores, and you will get the answer of 1000 rupees. Now this is not the final NAV. You still have to deduct expense ratio from this NAV, and then you will reach at the NAV that you see published everywhere. And the thing about expense ratio is they are always denoted in annualized percentages. So if a mutual fund says they have an expense ratio of 1%, that means they will deduct a certain amount that will not cross 1% in 1 year on the NAVs. That means the maximum they are allowed to deduct from the NAV is 1% in 1 year. But NAVs are calculated and published on every trading day. That means they have to deduct this annualized percentage on each day. So 1% then gets divided by 365. Wrong. That 1% will get divided by the number of total trading days in that particular year. So we have around 250 or 252 trading days in every year, give or take. So according to that, a certain percentage will be deducted from this 1000 rupees, and you will arrive at the NAV that is published everywhere. Now just to keep this example easy to understand, I am assuming that the expense ratio is 0. It won't be 0 in any case, but let's assume it's 0. So the final NAV is now 1000 rupees. The good question you should be asking is, who decides the number of units of a particular mutual fund? And the answer is pretty simple. It's the mutual fund house itself. They have the right to decide what are the total number of units going to be. So instead of 1 crores, if they decided to keep the units 10 crores, the NAV would then be 100 rupees. And if they had decided to keep the units 10 lakh, then the NAV would be 10,000 rupees. Bottom line, low NAV and more units don't mean anything. Consider one more thing. Every mutual fund has two versions. One is a direct version and the other is a regular version. We both know that the expense ratio of a regular plan is much higher than the direct plan. Now you tell me, if I deduct a higher expense ratio from the NAV, will I get a lower NAV or a higher NAV? One more thing, people often get confused between dividend mutual funds and growth mutual funds because the NAV of dividend mutual fund is much lower than the growth mutual fund. A growth mutual fund will always reinvest the profits it is making so that you get compounding returns. Whereas a dividend mutual fund is designed for specific people who have a lot of capital that they want to invest and generate regular income from that fund. So, a dividend mutual fund does not mean that it is investing your money in dividend stocks. It is merely paying you back the dividend from your own money. That means in the formula for NAV, the liabilities portion will be much higher than the growth mutual fund. That will make the numerator significantly lower and result in a lower NAV. So in this case as well, a lower NAV does not mean the fund is good and that you should invest in that fund for long-term gains. Now, before I move on to the next blunder, I have two requests. First, if you know any beginner investor, please share this video with them so that they get enough time to protect their own profits. And second, if you yourself are a beginner investor and you have only experienced mutual funds yet, then I encourage you to open a Demat account with India's best broker, that is Zerodha. They will not charge you any kind of brokerage if you invest in stocks. So try buying a 100 rupee or a 500 rupee stock. That will motivate you to learn more and more about stock market, and finally you'll be able to understand it better. Leaving links in the description. If you use those links, you'll be indirectly supporting this channel, but you watching this video is also considered great support, so thank you. Next blunder people make is they choose sectoral funds. You have to understand this. Returns are everywhere. Even cryptocurrency is making great returns, and Bitcoin has been the best investment instrument for the last decade, return wise. That doesn't mean that you should invest in something that you don't understand. Sectoral funds in particular have the power to generate great returns, but they will also have a really steep fall when the time is not right for them. And since your money was not truly diversified, you only invested in companies of one particular sector, it will create a massive loss in your portfolio. If you one day learn enough of this and advance to next level, then you may be in a position to make the right calls when it comes to sectoral funds. But as a beginner, please stay away from sectoral funds. One simple example, if you look at the returns of pharma funds, you will notice that they started giving great returns only after 2020. But if you erase 2020 from the calendar and look at the past 5-year returns, they are somewhat flat. So you really have to have deep level of understanding, and you have to really identify which sectors are sluggish and for how long will they be sluggish and stuff like that. So if you are a beginner investor and even an advanced investor, a lot of people do not like to complicate their mutual fund portfolio. They just invest a majority chunk of their money in large cap stocks so that they can play safe, and the rest they can decide to go with a multi-cap or a flexi cap fund that will create exposure in almost all sectors and all companies. The next blunder people make is buying too many mutual funds. Now please tell me, if you do have 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 mutual funds in your portfolio, what was the reason that made you invest in so many mutual funds? The way I see it, if you invest in 10, 15 or maybe 20 mutual funds, that means you are investing in pretty much every company in India. And if you do want to invest in every company in India, then you should also be prepared for returns that are equivalent to the growth of India. While some funds in your portfolio will deliver great returns, the other funds will deliver poor returns, and they will average out your returns, and you can expect a similar performance to Sensex and Nifty. So if that's your goal, why not invest in directly Sensex or Nifty index fund and just do away with your 10, 15, 20 mutual fund portfolio? Another thing to consider is, if you are investing in 10, 15, 20 mutual funds, and if you think you are diversifying your money, you are also wrong. A typical mutual fund will have a basket of 30, 40 or maybe 50 stocks. So if you are investing in too many mutual funds, there's a very high chance that all of those funds are ultimately investing your money in the same companies. You have to acknowledge the fact that even if you invest in one mutual fund, be it large cap, small cap, mid cap or a flexi cap fund, your money is being invested in a lot of different companies and it is already being diversified. And I do plan to make a video on how to declutter your mutual fund portfolio from 10-15 funds to maybe just one fund or two funds. Trust me, more than two funds is not at all necessary for any man who is not having a portfolio in crores. Another blunder that people make is they think that lower expense ratio always means a better mutual fund. And half of that credit goes to us YouTubers who have been saying that a lower expense ratio means more returns. But you also have to know this. In your mutual fund app or any portal, if you see the percentage returns of any mutual fund, those returns are after deducting the expense ratio. I just told you how NAV is calculated. In order to reach the final NAV, you first have to deduct the expense ratio, then a mutual fund publishes the NAV. And the returns that you see in your mutual fund app or any internet portal displays the NAV returns. Let's take an example of Parag Parikh Mutual Fund. It's one of my favorite funds, and if you look at the 5-year performance, it has delivered around 21% returns. That means whatever the expense ratio might be, if I had invested my money in this fund for 5 years, I would have gotten 21% of returns. And since this return is the NAV returns, that means I don't have to pay anything else from my returns or my profits. So whenever you look at mutual fund returns on any platform, please understand that those are NAV returns, and NAV returns are always calculated after deducting the expense ratio, not before. So now let me ask you this. A fund that is generating 20% of CAGR and has an expense ratio of 1.5% versus a fund that is generating 10 to 15% of CAGR but has an expense ratio of 0.1%. Which one would you go with? All I'm trying to say is the returns that you see on internet are always after deducting the expense ratio, and expense ratio alone should not be the criteria to choose a mutual fund. Which is why when I was asked by the Hindi audience that which mutual funds have I invested my money in, I did not name those mutual funds, because I happen to mention that I'm paying an expense ratio of only 0.4%. So people were attracted with the low expense ratio and they were tempted to invest in that fund. So I refrained from naming that fund, and I'll tell you why in my future videos. I do plan to make a video series on how to choose equity mutual funds. Do let me know if you want such kind of a series or not. The last blunder new investors make is they exit the mutual funds too frequently. I know there are certain reasons due to which you should exit from a mutual fund, but all I'm trying to say is if you don't have a solid reason to exit a mutual fund, please don't exit a mutual fund out of just fear or FOMO or stuff like that. Doing so will seriously hurt your long-term gains. Let me tell you how. Whenever you exit a mutual fund, you will incur a loss or a profit. In most cases, you will exit a mutual fund at a profit. That will either be a short-term capital gain or a long-term capital gain. According to that, you have to pay appropriate tax to the government. So if you are withdrawing 1 lakh profit from a mutual fund and plan to reinvest that money in a next mutual fund, then you won't be allowed to invest all of your 1 lakh rupees. You'll first have to pay 10% long-term capital gain or 15% short-term capital gain. You will either be left with 85,000 rupees or 95,000 rupees, and then you can invest in a second mutual fund. And over a period of 20-year investing journey, if you do this 10 times, 15 times, you will seriously hurt your long-term returns. The government says if you stick to one mutual fund, you are making profits, but you are not required to pay tax on your profits as long as you stay invested. It's like you are liable to pay tax, but the government is saying that you can keep that tax money in your mutual fund and continue to generate more returns even on that money. We will only ask you to pay tax once you withdraw. So it always makes sense to stick with a mutual fund for as long as possible, unless you have a very strong reason to exit that mutual fund. And which is why index funds are way better than I think today's large cap funds. Since there's no active investing, there's no intelligence of fund manager involved, and you just want to stay invested in India's growth, it's way easier for you to stick to that kind of a mutual fund for 20 years, 25 years and take advantage of this opportunity. So that's it. These were the 5 biggest mutual fund blunders new investors make. One important announcement that I have for you is LLA is now on Discord. You can join this server. I'll leave a link in the description, and you can join different groups. For example, there's a group for mutual fund, there's a group for stock investing, there's a group for EPF, ESI, even memes. So you can be part of our family, our community, and engage with like-minded people, grow your knowledge. Link is in the description. I'll see you in the next video.